Hey guys, Boy with the Bible here, back with a brand new video. This one's just going to basically be me just finishing up the book of Jonah. I know I've been kind of putting it off for a while. I kind of stopped for a while, so I want to finish this one up, and I want to start doing more Bible videos. I know I did that. I'm working on some more more in-depth Bible studies that are more like not just like just reading a passage, more like subject-based rather than just going through each chapter. But I am also going to be doing more of these. I'm probably going to go for Revelation next, but we'll see. Obviously, I don't understand everything in Revelation, but I'll be trying to figure out some interesting stuff. But that's if I even do Revelation. We shall see. But right now, we're doing Jonah chapter 3. So here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and read through the verses and give you some of the patterns and things I've seen. So we'll go ahead and just start reading through this passage. It says in verse 1, "And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go into Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So the people of Nineveh believed God, and proclaimed to fast, and put on sackcloth from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered him with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything, let them not feed nor drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, crying mightily unto God, yet let them turn everyone from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hands. Who can tell if God will turn and repent and turn away from his fierce anger, that we perish not? And God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not." Well, right off the bat, I don't know if I mentioned this, and I want to say I mentioned this in episode 1, but from what I see, at least from the math, as long as there wasn't a lot of time in between, it took Jonah about 4 days, and as you know about all the fours in this book, if you've watched the last couple videos, it took Jonah about 4 days, because it says, he had 3 days in the belly of the whale, and then he had this journey, and it says he goes in a day's journey. So it's about a 4-day journey. Another thing I was thinking of was, if he wouldn't have wasted all that time in the fish's belly, he could have made it across the whole city, but instead he can only go in a day's journey. Now, I don't know if that has a lot of correlation, but I just thought it was interesting, the fact that he only went in a day's journey. I don't know if that was what God wanted, but he could have gone in further. And I almost wonder if that was because he didn't want them to be saved, so he's like, okay, God, I'll go, but I'm only going to go in a little bit, and then I'll leave. Not that a day's journey is a little bit. It's a big city. I mean, think about it, 3 days just to get across the city, and that's just walking. That's not, it takes people, not just, tourism. This is just walking across the city. That's a big city. And then, as you can see, I've highlighted all these uses of God's name, and there's actually 7. There's these 2 lords. There's God in verse 5. There's God in verse 8. God in verse 9, and then 2 gods in verse 10, and that amounts to 7. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. And then here in verse 6, we've got another set of 4s. We've got he arose, he laid, covered, and he sat. That's 4 right there, which is pretty interesting as well. Again, just adding to that library of 4s in this book. In verse 7, it might be a bit of a stretch, but I just figured I'd put it in there. It says he caused, proclaimed, published, and sang, which are kind of like 4 actions, but I don't know if that counts, but then I know this is definitely, there's man nor beast, herd nor flock, that's 4 right there. In verse 8, we've got even more 4s. It says, let them be covered with sackcloth, they would cry, let them turn, and then it says evil way and violence that is in their hands. So that's 4 right there. But that's probably about it. It looks pretty much, I think. I wanted to throw in there, in verse 8, it says, But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and cry mightily unto God. It says God, and I don't know, this might be just me overthinking it, but back in chapter 1, whenever the sailors aren't completely invested, at first, they say, let's cry unto our gods, little g, but then they say, Lord, this is just God. Now, I don't know if that's just me overthinking it, like I said, or what, but it's pretty interesting, and no matter what, this chapter is definitely the happiest in this book, because the first one, it's a preacher running away from God, which is never going to end out nice. The second one, he's in the belly of the whale, and it is kind of a redemption story in that one, but it's still sad, because, it's sad that he's, he has to be in the first place. Kind of a bitter reminder of chapter 1. Chapter 4, he's mad that people didn't get killed by God. But chapter 3 is probably the happiest because, it's this massive city, and they're all, turning away from their sin for, who knows how long, maybe only a couple years, but God gave them some more time to just be alive. And it's more of a happy story than the other chapters. So it's pretty sad that that's the happiest in this book, but yeah, it's more of a story of rebellion than it is, a story of a city. It's more of what not to do as a preacher, I suppose you could say. Alright guys, that was probably it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll probably be coming out with some more of this stuff, so if you're looking forward to that, definitely stay tuned for however you want. But thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day or night or whatever you're going to be going into. And this is Boy with the Bible, signing out.